Greetings, brothers and sisters. I remembered a story or an event that happened in my life where, um, like I, one of the few brushes with death that I've had. um, I think that everybody has their moments where death becomes a reality, where you say to yourself, "Oh wow, I could have just died," right? Sometimes it's like you avoid a car accident or something like that, right? There is um, some sort of a momentary instant where, or maybe you get into a car accident but you survive or something, right? Or there's some kind of like growth that you have, or like some sort of issue where you might like be diagnosed with some form of cancer or something, like some bad medical news that in some cases could lead to death, right? And then there's things like almost drowning or something, where you're gasping for air, something where you're held under the water, maybe a wave or something, and that you're like swimming to the top of the ocean and to get out of the water so you can breathe. I mean, you have these moments where all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, I almost died, or I could have died, or death becomes something of a reality, right? A real possibility where death is, wow, that's a possibility that could have happened to me, or something happens to someone else, like a peer or something. I talked about there was a girl who had leukemia when I was in like third grade. I mean, she had been in my class in elementary school a number of times. Like she was in my kindergarten, like first grade or second, like maybe all of my classes, all my grades. And then she sort of was disappeared. Her name was Anne Marie Lopez. I remember her because, you know, one day our teacher said she died of leukemia, right? And she had like sort of disappeared for the year she had been there. Like no one knew. You were kids, you didn't notice. They're like, oh, she died. We're like, wow. I mean, it left an impression because it's one of my few memories from, that period of time in my life, right? So I'm going to get to some stuff. Like there was a Hilary Clinton interview with Rachel Maddow, and she's still ghouling it up. And, the hypocrisy is off the charts, all these things. And just a few little um, things to do with the war. But I, wanted to tell this story because it came up and, was to me interesting. So I was watching this Netflix movie, not a good movie, called The Stowaway. And the main character told a story that was very similar to my story. And her story in the movie was important to how the movie played out, right? But it reminded me of a thing that happened when I was in high school where, death became like a real possibility. And also sort of the hand of God, right? So, one of my best friends in high school had a friend, somebody that was kind of annoying. We didn't get along so well. And he had like some kind of a little sailboat. It was like made out of fiberglass, and um, I think it fit on the top of a car. It was big enough for three people to sit in it, but it was more like a giant surfboard with a little, area to sit. Right? It wasn't it was like some sort of almost like a sailboard instead of like a sailboat. And there was a lake near our house, and this guy said, "Why don't we go and use the boat, right?" And so me and my friend went with him, and we went to we were sailing on this lake, right? And it was summertime, and at some point, all three of us dived off the boat, which was like unbelievably stupid because the boat didn't really have much weight. Like it was going really slow when we were on it, like it was going at a snail's pace because the boat probably wasn't even meant for three people. I have kind of a vague memory of the boat. But we all jumped in the ocean, I mean, the lake, and the boat, without the weight of the three of us, caught a breeze and it just took off, right? And we're, we're in the water, train water, and we're kind of, in the middle of the lake, kind of far out in the lake. And, I could have swam to shore. Like, and we didn't have life jackets. I mean, just like no safety precautions, just stupidity, right? And I could have swam to shore, but all three of us started to swim after the boat, and the boat was, um, it was much faster than we were. And so as we were swimming, I started to look up, and the boat was just going, I was going probably twice as fast as we were. It was just getting farther and farther away. And now we're more in the middle of the lake than we were before, and I'm exhausted. And we were trying to swim fast to get to the boat, but it was just a lost cause. Like, it wasn't like, oh, let's start swimming towards the shore, because I could have made it to the shore, right? And so now I'm like, wow, I'm really tired. I was out of breath. And out of nowhere, a boat came. Like, somebody saw us, like, struggling. I mean, and the lake was kind of empty. Like, it was maybe we blew off school. It was a weekday, but it was just not, there wasn't that many boats. And somebody was on a boat, and they, came up to us, and, got it. We got on their boat. They had, it was a boat with a motor on it, and drove us over to the sailboat, right? And we all, we got on the sailboat, and we sailed back to the shore or whatever, and packed up and came home. And we didn't even talk about, oh wow, we almost just died, right? What was going on? And it was, to me, like divine intervention. Like, we weren't supposed to die that day, right? Like, that was the only reason for it, because just sheer stupidity and lack of precaution and lack of knowledge of what we were doing. I mean, just all of it, right? But it didn't happen because, and I don't know, maybe we would have summoned up enough energy to tread water for a little bit and swam to the shore. I don't know. Like, maybe some of us would have. Like, I don't know. Like, it was three of us. Maybe two of us would have. You know what I mean? It was you know, I just remember being really tired. Like, like looking at the shore going, wow, the shore is really far away. And I just used up all my energy chasing a boat that was 2 or 3 times faster than I could swim, right? And so, but, it didn't happen because there was somebody there to save us, right? Something happened where there was like, an out, right? An out for it. Like I talked about, the other thing that happened was 14 when I fell off a zip line and, woke up in the hospital, and I was told by somebody there, a person who was like an astrologer, Vedic astrologer maybe, or some psychic person, that was a choice point where I could have exited, right? You have these, choice points where you can leave the earth, like several, early exits to a life that isn't going well or something like that, right? And this is, you have your eventual inevitable death, and then there's some early exit points. But anyways, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and not because of, any conscious connection to what's happening in the Ukraine. At least, I have the Whispers of the Brighter World messages, prophecies that talked about something happened in 2025, 2026, and how, nuclear war, nuclear energy, the atom will ruin this world, and all these things. I read those in some recent videos, and, it's still 4 years away. Like, it's not, 4 years is not that far, but it isn't tomorrow, right? So there would have to be an escalation between America and Russia over a 4 year period. And so at the very, in terms of my, what I believe in, it is, a long way off, or at least, it's not like in the immediate future, right? But I've been thinking about it a lot, like just in terms of just coming up, like when we watch the show Afterlife, and, not just in terms of, my personal death, but losing a loved one and all these things, right? You just, it's just almost like it's palpable in the air. Like there's just, this possibility, because there is this, this one narrative that's out there now that wasn't there, 5 years ago. I mean, it, sort of died in the 80s with the taking down of the Berlin Wall. I got this other thing to show, a Simpsons predictive programming about Russia too. So we'll get to that. And then the Hilary Clinton stuff, and then the headlines. These were things that people sent me today, right? Like some days wake up with nothing to talk about, and then there'll just be like all these links that people send me. Um, but anyways, in terms of death, there's going to be a time in the future, and it might be this year. It might be, whatever's happened with COVID and the you know what, right? Um, that there'll be more people dying than being born. Right now, it's 53 million people dying a year. And then the amount of people that are being born, babies that are being born, is like 142 million. And so that's number is going to start coming closer and closer together, or just drop. I mean, there's already birth rates are down, and that's going to happen because there's been interventions in terms of that, and then death rates are going to go up. And at some point, you're going to see we're no longer going to be expanding as a species, and there might be drastic die off. And this is another thing from the Whispers of the Brighter World messages, and that has to happen at some point. Like, you just can't have exponential growth. And lots of people who don't know anything about overpopulation and just all these stupid stuff in the truth community. But go to one of these crowded cities in China or in India and then talk to me. Or anywhere, even in America, where there's, not just one city, but one city on top of another. Like, if you drive from Washington, D.C. all the way up to Boston, it's pretty much one monster city. Like, it's just, and you experience the traffic jams and whatever's going, And it kind of shows you, like, you don't really have a sense of it if you're living in the suburbs or out, side in the country or something like this. But, same thing with Los Angeles and the crush of, all the stuff along the coast. If you drive around the coast, it's all basically, there's a few parks here and there, but there's just no, no space, right? You go out to the Midwest, sure. You go out to the, whatever it is. That's another way that you can experience death, is like you're in, a tall building like Empire State Building or Grand Canyon or something like that. And you look over the side and you're like, oh, wow, if I fell from here, I would die, right? So there's these, things that happen, right? When you're sitting in a plane, it hits like a real, like, bad patch of turbulence and the bottom drops out, right? And of course, like amusement park rides and things that mimic the sensation of death and things. But in terms of, like, having that kind of awareness that, like, it can happen. Because when you're younger, it's like, oh, wow, this is, you don't even imagine death, right? It's not something that's very prevalent in your life. You see old people die and your grandparents, whatever it is. But then as you get older, like I said, it becomes more and more of a reality. And your soul is beginning to prepare you. If you're connected to God and you have some, flexibility in your awareness, your flexibility in your orientation in the world. Some people are so rigid, and that's, many truthers are like this, that they're just locked in and, just in denial, and they can't read the signs and just feel the energy and just, understand the flow, the ebb and flow of life and all of it. So it's something I just thought I would start off with. And so the second thing I want to talk about is there's an image of a woman being used, a Ukrainian woman, that has been used before. Several people have sent me the meme, and people in the truth community mistakenly believe this is evidence that the whole thing's fake, right? There's a lot of just people who deny everything in the truth community. Any kind of news event, it's like, it's all fake, whatever. It's just a scam. It's not real. But that's not what that is. This photo that's been put out, because it's a long history, a pattern of behavior that easily could be corrected, right? So I saw this in 2000, and I want to say 11, was it, when there was an event that happened. And there was another event that happened in 2014. 2011, I wasn't making videos like this so much. And then this another event similar to the one happened in America and like Connecticut, and then the other one happened in France, right? And there was a little boy who was a victim, and he was in both. There was a picture of him. He was supposed to have died 3 years earlier in And he was a more prominent figure. His parents became prominent figure, and they were involved in lawsuits and things. And so his picture showed up as a victim of in France, even though he was American and he was already supposedly dead. And not only that, there was another kid, a teenager, who showed up again. And you see that these people show up from time to time in these narratives, right? Same people. And there is like an element in the truth community that just wants to find those things. And when people see it, they're like, we got him. We caught him. Look, we caught him. We got direct evidence. We caught him. This can't be real because they're using photos of the same people. They're using the same, actors over and over again. They're using the same characters over and over again. And then we got him. We caught him. Look, it's fake. We caught him. It's fake. It's like, look, we caught him. And then there was another thing that happened. And I'm not sure it was 2011 or 12 or whatever it was, but there was an event, the same event that happened in Connecticut. And there was a guy, this old, creepy, weird guy, and he became, interviewed by CNN and these other news media organizations. And then there was this tape of him rehearsing his lines where he was practicing his story, and it was, a video, and it came out, and then it was shared all over the place. Why is this guy rehearsing? But I asked the question, well, where did the videotape come from? Why is somebody even videoing this? Why is the guy even rehearsing in a situation where that he could be caught? Like, why would that happen? Who gave the tape up? Like, where did the tape come from? Who was doing the videoing? They were obviously a part of this, and then they decide to leak it, and all of it, right? And there was a couple of things like I realized that. Well, first of all, why would they make the same mistake over and over again? Why would they reuse photos? Why would they reuse people? Why would they, and it's happened in every big event. There's this, and people find it, right? Why do they do it? Why would they, make such an obvious mistake that can be, figured out, right? And when you talk to your sheeple friends and family about it, and you show them this direct evidence, does it ever change their mind, right? Does it ever wake anybody up, more people up? Like, like one out of what? 1,000 will look at it and go, oh, wow, man. And those people were already, would have been, so-called, this would have woken up some other way, right? People are either open to it or they're not. And the people who aren't, you can show them any direct evidence. You can show them like damning video, and they're never going to come to they're just not going to do it. Like, you should have realized it by now. I certainly realized it years and years ago. The people who are open to this are open to it, and the people who aren't are now are almost not almost, they're hostile towards people who are. There's a divide. Like, we've had as a group a resentment to the so-called normies and the sheeple and the mainstream media and people like that. We've all feel hostility, negativity, and frustration. But now those people, because of what happened during COVID, really hate truthers, right? The truth community and what they call crazy conspiracy theorists. And the two groups are never going to come together. They're not going to come together for a shared reality. Our narration, our view of the world, our personal realities, and our collective realities are just diverging, right? They're going in two opposite directions. The year of the schism. So that this evidence isn't going to, amount to anything. The powers that be are never going to look at these pictures and say, hey, look, they're using the same people. No, they're like, So why are they doing it, right? Why are they doing these mistakes, what look like mistakes? They can't possibly be mistakes. Why would they do it other than, complete incompetence? And there can't be incompetence at this point because they would have cleaned this up, right? There's only one reason to do it. It's for you, for the truth community. They want to trigger you. Like, they want you to go nuts and then, whatever. Make crazy, accusations. I mean, just all of it. They're feeding you information. The movement, the truth movement, they're feeding you stuff. And they're keeping you going, and they're winding you up so that you'll, oh, it's all fake. Everything's all fake. The fakies. Right, we have the QBs and the Flubies and all these various groups. It's a man, right? It's all fake, and so they keep on putting things out there. I mean, it's just not, the thing that I'm talking about. There's lots of stuff that comes out that clearly they're just feeding the truth community. They knew that there'd be a group of people who didn't buy the official narrative. They saw this opening up in the internet, and this is one of the ways they've decided to deal with it. It's just feed disinformation and, triggering, whatever it is to the people in the truth community. And like, there's just no reason to react to it anymore because they're obviously, it's like they're putting a worm on a hook for you, right? Like that's, they're just winding you up and, whatever it might be, or it's just another form of distraction. But whatever reason they're doing it, and it's probably multifaceted, they're doing it intentionally. There's no other reasonable explanation because it doesn't deliver anything. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't wake anybody else up. It doesn't do anything to advance the truth community. Like, we caught him again. We caught him. Yeah, did you catch him? Or do they want to be caught? Or do they catch you, right? Like, and then you base your opinion, it must be fake. It can't be real. They're doing this, Well, what? Like, that doesn't mean anything. Like, they're doing this on purpose to move you in a certain direction, to control you and move you in a certain direction, get you to act in a certain way. I mean, they're using this in some way. Like, you just got to look beyond their first level of things, right? People who are experts in chess could see, more than one move ahead, right? Or, or not even, right? Some people, they can't even, even the move that they're making, they don't even understand the consequences of the action. But there's people who can see, 12 moves ahead or whatever it is, right? One of my buddies who's a heartfulness practitioner, somebody, we're no longer really friends. We were friends for a while. And he was one of those really, he worked at MIT and he was really smart and he did some kind of, I don't know, it was space thing, a lot of math, a lot of calculation. And he was like a, sort of a master level chess player. I don't know what there's some sort of ranking and things like this. And he, was talking about computer chess because I was playing like computer chess back then. He said, well, the good programs, like the beginner level, the computer sees one move ahead. And then the next level, it sees two moves ahead. So it's just, they allow the computer, which could see, many more moves ahead and calculate the different, variations of moves. Like, if this guy does this, I'm going to do this, right? All these things. And so, but like, the expert level was 5 or 6 moves ahead, right? The computer, if it could see 5 or 6 moves ahead, like most people couldn't come close to beating it. But anyways, you have to start questioning, why is this information, why do I know about this? Why is this being put out there? Is it like fake? Is it being faked by people in the truth community or disinformation agents? Is it, being handed over to us by the powers that be? Whoever is running this show to, trigger us and, is it some sort of like red herring type of a thing? Just whatever. Like, you have to look beyond, like, oh my God, we just caught them. Look, they screwed up. We got them. And we know it's fake. It's fake. I don't know, fake. It's all fake. And so there's the fakies. And I just, I see the truth community just becoming more like the snake eating its own tail. I mean, it's more and more becoming part of the problem. It's, a dysfunctional part of a dysfunctional system, dysfunctional subgroup of a dysfunctional overall group, and nobody really getting to the truth or what's important, and just like I said, trying to figure out the truth by diving into the lies. Okay, so let's go to the Hilary Clinton thing and the Simpsons thing. Okay, so my YouTube, my YouTube on my phone recommended this video for me, and then I searched Simpsons, and as soon as I started typing in Simpsons, I got like 5 letters in, and this video came up. So people are looking for this. They remember it, right? Because the Simpsons have done a lot of whatever predictive programming was called predictive programming, and this is so this originally aired in 1998.
The Soviet Union will be pleased to offer amnesty to your wayward vassal.
The Soviet Union?
I thought you guys broke up.
Yes, that's what we wanted you to think.
So if you guys aren't familiar with this, you younger people, there was what used to be called the Soviet Union, which included the Ukraine. And there was a Cold War between America and the Soviet Union where it was a nuclear arms race where America eventually just, using more and more of our resources, just outcompeted in terms of the arms race. And then there was other factors that led to the collapse of the Soviet Union, and there was a wall in Germany between East Germany and West Germany, right? There was the Berlin Wall, and the Berlin Wall came down, and people in Germany started to reunite family members who had been on either side of this wall and things like this, citizens. And so the Soviet Union was broken up, and various countries came out of it, and eventually there was the Ukraine, right? And so the idea that the Soviets would now be trying to reclaim, these other countries, right? The Ukraine, I think Croatia, I can't even remember all the various new countries that are, that came out of that. But the Soviet Union was like the United States losing, I don't know, Alaska and Maine and, various to Canada or something like that, right? Or the southern states losing Texas and, New Mexico and things like this, right? States on one side of the country would no longer be a part of the United States. And so they say Berlin reunited, and it feels so good. Berlin was, the Berlin Wall, right? So there was East and West Germany that are now, free from the Soviet control, East Germany. So that's the wall that, used to be there.
Must crush capitalism.
And so this is something, and The Simpsons has done this time and time again, where they seem to either be getting a script ahead of time because they put in some sort of predictive programming or whatever it is, right? I mean, they've made lots of episodes, so there's that. And I've also talked about how that predictive programming could be coming from the divine forces, like when you have deja vu, right? That there are, there's higher developed souls working to bring awareness and, consciousness of a plan, right? That God has a plan. There's two ways of looking at predictive programming. One, it comes from the controllers who are, they're divulging their plans in cartoon form in a way to prepare people and get their minds meditating and collectively bringing something into reality. For some reason they have to announce their plan, so they do it this way. And there's the divine aspect of it, where God is, helping people understand what's about to happen and prepare them for it in one way or another. It's just, But speaking of predictive programming, let's go to Hilary Clinton.
Added from the outside, but make no mistake, this is not just an unprovoked, aggressive invasion by Russia. It is an effort by Putin and those who...
Putin. She likes that Putin. She just gets more ghoulish. I mean, when you think she can't get any more ghoulish, right?
prop him up and enable him to really wage war on the rule of law and democracy, on freedom. And it's critically important.
Okay, so the hypocrisy with her is really off the charts. I mean, it's, there's no charts for her hypocrisy.
The hypocrisy is off the charts, and it is sickening.
See, we have to remember a couple of things here. So Hilary Clinton was the worst of the war hawks, right? There was the neocons, which was Dick Cheney, and these were all Republicans, Dick Cheney and his boys. And they were really into war, and they were really into war in the Middle East. And Hillary Clinton surpassed them, right? And so when Barack Obama took over, and he was seemed as someone who, the way that he said, he talked. People were saying he was, was Muslim, and like all these right-wing people were like, oh, this guy, he was some sort of a peace agent, and he won a couple of Nobel Peace Prizes, but he was far worse than the Bushes and the neocons in terms of the Arab Spring, and she was his Secretary of State, and she was way worse than he was. Now, she was pushing for arming Syria and, these various countries, arming the rebels in Syria. She wanted to just give away weapons and, produce all these illegal wars that she's now condemning Putin for. And again, I've talked about this before. It's a behavior. You can't condemn one country for doing the same thing that your country has done, right? And then what she did in Libya, because Libya, it came out that the reason that they said they were invading Libya and getting rid of Gaddafi was completely bogus. The British Parliament came out and said, yeah, this was lies, right? I mean, they did a whole research paper on this and published it, like a memorandum or whatever, whatever they call it in their governmental system. But they put out a report saying that the invasion of Libya was wrong and was made by mistakes, just like the invasion of Iraq was lied into war by Colin Powell, who was set up at the UN about Saddam Hussein and weapons of mass destruction. All lies. And we know that all those countries are doing much worse after America wrecked them for illegal and unnecessary wars. The only thing that they did was provide, and when she says, when they use the word freedom, we're trying to protect your freedom, what they mean is lifestyle. Because without these wars, your lifestyle would take a hit. But then she said this thing on 60 Minutes about Gaddafi.
So, that is the land of unconfirmed reports.
Yes, we came, we saw, he died.
Did it have anything to do with your visit?
No, I'm sure it did.
And there was all these articles published that said that she offered him a truce or offered him a chance to surrender, and he came out waving the white flag, and there was American supported thugs waiting for him, and they tortured him. It was just brutal. It's on video, brutal stuff. And she was like this cackling, evil just person who set him up, and he was considered a good leader by his people, and he had, taken the Libya in the right direction. And so she doesn't get to talk about this stuff, right? She does, but she doesn't.
That, as we've seen in the last days, that democratic governments and people rally to support Ukraine in this struggle, because it's also our struggle.
She's just so horrible, like as a speaker, right? Like she's just life-sucking when she talks. Politicians are supposed to be able to talk, and engage with people and, not suck their energy dry with this ghoulish, just ghoulish mug, right? She's just so bad at it. Like she's like not compelling. You just want to turn her off, right? So Rachel Maddow asked her some questions here. Let's get to... Rachel Maddow's got her own... All right, here we go.
Well, I give President Biden and the Biden administration a lot of credit for...
So, this is interesting. I'm going to stick this in somewhere. I don't know how it's going to go in the flow of the video, but I got to put it in somewhere. So I was answering comments, reading comments, not answering them, hearting some comments, reading others, batting, on my apocalaughsnow channel. And one of my viewers posted this, one of the commenters posted this without any context. And usually that's like just posted a link without saying what it is, which is always not very welcome. But I clicked on the link anyway. It's a YouTube video. I often just will, delete it or whatever it is, right? Leave a sentence of what it is, anyhow. Maybe they did, I don't know, but that's how I remember it. But anyways, this person put this link in that's, about the Clintons and 60 Minutes. I have a couple of 60-minute clips already. It's weird how this is the third. The other one's Madeleine Albright, and then Hilary Clinton talking about Gaddafi. And this happened.
Down with all the lights on it on the back of the couch.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph, she said. And so that was great. Let's watch that again. Look at this dude. I mean, in a world that everything's fake, I don't know the implications here.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
Well, at the time, I thought, there's a woman that doesn't swear.
There's a woman that doesn't swear. Come on, bro. The thing about it is, you think about like what that means in terms of the light, right? So they weren't hit with darkness, right? They were hit with a light. Like, what's afraid of light? Shadow, right? What's afraid of love? Well, anything evil. You know, what's afraid of God? You know, so darkness is afraid of light, right? How do you get rid of darkness? Well, you turn on a light, right? And so these two dark figures, both wearing black, right, or whatever they were wearing, it looks like, you know, it's dark here, and the light hitting them. I mean, again, you know, the world of stagecraft and all these things. I mean, the metaphor here is that they're darkness and the light is hitting them, right? All right, so let's get back to our regular scheduled programming here.
Leading the world to this point, the strategy of disclosing intelligence to demonstrate very clearly that Putin was trying to do
Putin. And so then what happened was Barack Obama and Hilary Clinton pushed for regime change in Syria. And Syria was, you know, near Iran, and the Iranians were like not having any of that, and Russia had, you know, an alliance with Iran, and so they war blocked America. I've said this before in various recent videos, and Hillary and them didn't like it, right? Russia, like, you know, stopped these, you know, these illegal wars from happening, and then Hillary just was all about heating on Russia, and then blame Russia for losing to Trump. Like, she's just the worst candidate, right? Russia, and not all this stuff with Russia. Like, she has started the anti-Russia stuff, right? More than anybody else.
Once again, what he had done before, use disinformation, false flag operations in order to try to justify and...
Okay, let me put this clip in there, because Hillary Clinton, you know, so many people have talked about American false flags in the truth community. America's admitted to doing false flags. Every dirty trick that every government's, you know, I mean, maybe some country like, is it Bhutan? There's this country that has, you know, the gross national product is happiness. I mean, you know, there's some, you know, Nepal, there's these countries out there. But for the most part, you know, all these countries have their, you know, dirty tricks people, the CIA here, Mossad and MI6 or whatever it is, right? And, you know, KGB, I don't know what is in Russia. But they have their, you know, their intelligence community that's in charge of dirty tricks, right? And they all have the same playbook. They all do the same things. There's no sense of being fair or good or whatever it is, right? And Hillary Clinton, this is her talking about conspiracy theories. I hope I still have these. I think I have this somewhere, where she, you know, like, she's talked about conspiracy against her and her husband, but we're all conspiracy theorists, right? Let me just play that clip here.
The great story here, for anybody willing to find it and write about it and explain it, is this vast right-wing conspiracy that has been conspiring against my husband since the day he announced for president.
You mentioned attacks on the early 90s.
Right.
Do you still believe there's a vast right-wing conspiracy?
Don't you?
I'm asking you.
Yeah, it's gotten even better funded. You know, they brought in some new multi-billionaires to pump the money in. And look, these guys play for keeps. They want to control our country. Senator Sanders and I agree on that completely. They want to rig the economy so they continue to get richer and richer. They could care less about income inequality. They solve their consciences by giving big money to philanthropy and, you know, getting great pictures of them standing in front of whatever charity they donated to. But make no mistake, they want to destroy unions. They want to go after any economic interests that they don't believe they can control.
Unjustifiable invasion was incredibly smart, unprecedented, and it seems to have really woken up so much of the world. And
woken up, like they're even using our lingo here, right? The world's woken up to Putin, right? Like they can't like come up with their own stuff.
Stymied Putin, and bringing not just Europe, but as you say, countries as far flung as Singapore, even Japan and others, to understand that this threat was global.
It's a global threat. Like when America invaded all these countries in the Middle East, it was local. But this thing is in the Ukraine is global.
Certainly is a direct threat to Western democracies right in the heart of Europe. But to let an autocrat do what Putin decided to do is something that everybody has a stake in trying to stop. So up until now,
like, how do you look at yourself in the mirror or just listen? I mean, unbelievable, right? Like, I have to listen to my own voice on a daily basis. And, you know, it's okay. You know, like, I mean, the whole editing process is not my favorite part of the making the video. This part I like better, the talking part, than the, you know, having to listen to the video and, you know, edit it and whatever. But how does she, like, how does she not look at herself and say, oh my God, I'm completely unlikable. Like, I'm the least likely, I'm like the least likable person, at least in politics. And then, you know, I mean, who is less likable than Hilary Clinton, right? You think about all the annoying people out there. I don't know, Katy Perry's, you know, on the list. I mean, as potential candidates, so people who have unpleasant voices and mannerisms and, you know, like are just really unlikable. But she's just soul-sucking, right?
kind of economic pressures that have been brought to bear, I think are not only remarkable, but seem to be really biting. And the second point you make, providing necessary weapons to Ukraine.
Okay, so the economic sanctions she's going to come back to, because I saw whatever it was. But, well, let's let her, dig her own grave here.
Has begun. It needs to be accelerated. The Ukrainians need Stinger missiles to shoot down Russian aircraft. They need Javelin missiles to stop tanks.
They need these missiles. She's big into war. She's really likes war.
The president, Zelensky, who has been extraordinary and deserves...
As a comedian. Why didn't you become a comedian before you entered politics?
The thanks and gratitude, appreciation, admiration of all of us, is trying to operate on two levels. He's trying to continue to rally his people.
Rally them people.
To fight the Russian invaders, but he's also saying, look, I'll talk to you. I don't know what can come of it, because that is a possible way out. If the Ukrainians, with our help, can impose enough economic pain on Putin and, sadly, the Russian people.
Sadly, the Russian people. Sadly, the Russian people. Like this, listen to this school, because I want to show you this other clip here. This is an extended clip from the Madeleine Albright. So Madeleine Albright has a lot in common with Hilary Clinton. They're both very ghoulish. Remember, Madeleine Albright came out and said, if you're not, she was when Clinton was, going against Barack Obama, and she was saying, if you're not going with a woman, you're our enemy. If you're a woman voting for Barack Obama, you're our. I mean, it was pretty brutal. She had to walk it back. But Madeleine Albright, is maybe slightly more likable than Hillary Clinton, but she had this horrible interview. I mean, even back then, they slammed her for this.
Prevent Saddam Hussein from making and dropping a nuclear bomb or chemical weapons on other countries.
Okay, so we know Saddam Hussein didn't end up doing anything, right? He was never a real threat to America. But they put him out here, and he was, enemy number one, and he looks like a real creep. I'm not saying this was a good guy. I mean, I think Gaddafi was a much better person and leader than this guy, but we know how he ended up, right? Being in some hole. I mean, they found him in some hole with $600,000 in a briefcase, right? somebody sold him out.
And she says he's still lying about his weapons programs.
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima.
And so she's talking about economic sanctions here, which is what Hilary Clinton's talking about.
And you know, is the price worth it?
I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it. It is a moral question, but the moral question is...
She thinks the price is worth it. And she used the phrase hard choices, which was Hillary Clinton talking point, right? Which, you know, to use a talking point when you're talking about 500,000 kids starving, because that's what happens when you do economic sanctions. Kids always suffer in a very, you know, brutal way. Like, you know, in a war, you're killed in a war. Oftentimes it's instantaneous. I mean, not that wars are somehow humane, but the economic sanctions are things that like are a slow kill, right? Where kids are starving. I mean, just all the things. And just, it's not just that. Human trafficking. I mean, economic sanctions are horrific things. And to say that they're somehow more humane than war is wrong, because it doesn't really ever hurt the leader. I mean, maybe the people rise up against the leader, but certainly the kids, I mean, it hurts the children.
Even a larger one, don't we owe to the American people and to the American military and to the other countries in the region that this man not be a threat?
Yeah, so you starve kids, right? So that was your solution.
Putin and...
Sadly, the Russian people...
Sadly, the Russian people...
Sadly, the Russian people...
combined with providing weapons, that might be the only way that right now I can see us getting to a stalemate that might save the Ukrainian people from even greater tragedy.
Wow, she's brutal. Like, just, I had a lot of energy. I was feeling pretty good, and now I'm not. Like, just, what a life-sucking ghoul. You life-sucking ghoul. Why would you just disappear? You life-sucking ghoul. You're never going to be president. Just go away. Just go into some crypt and curl up and disintegrate. Like, like you're just, you're a plague on humanity and certainly this country. So just some interesting, I don't know if they're interesting. Russian convoy closes in on Kiev as Ukraine cities face intense shelling. Now, I was hearing from CNN both that they were going after civilians, that the Russians were dirty, were a horrible army going after civilians. And then I just saw a report from CNN, I'm not going to show you, where a bunch of Ukrainians stood in front of Russian tanks and, armored vehicles and things. And the Russians turned around, right? They blocked a road. They blocked some roads, another with barbed wire and things. And the Russians just turned around. So they're either out to kill civilians or they're not, right? But they have this, they're always, this conflict. Frustrated Putin may order escalation of violence in the Ukraine, U.S. officials say. And then there was this. Now, I showed you this yesterday, and I didn't scroll down far enough. Here she is. She's got some kind of video here. But this is a former Russian beauty queen who is, Miss Ukraine. So she must have been in the world competition. And there's a bunch of her pictured. And I didn't realize I could have seen this one, but it wasn't, it was camouflaged. But here she is. This is posted in February 11th. So this is, I don't know what, I don't want to translate this, whatever. But she posted this long before Russia was going to invade, right? And then here she is again. Like, look at, like, this is just like some Kim Kardashian, some kind of weird Instagram model thing. So she's doing this stuff. Here she is on an 4-wheeler. And here she is, like, I'm going to pretend to be a sniper. You're on the real road tracks. Here comes a train. Get off the train tracks, you dope. Right? There she is, doing some yoga, doing a split. This thing, I don't know, whatever. Like, she is taking a selfie. She's, doing the whole Instagram model thing. So if you look at these 3 pictures in a row, here she's doing some Instagram modeling right on the beach, doing some posing. And then here she is doing a pose, like, how many pictures do they shoot? Is that London? Or I don't know where that is, right? Probably says it here. These bizarre letters. Then you scroll down here, and then boom, another pose, right? This is somebody playing being a soldier, pretending to be a soldier, right? This isn't really being a soldier. And she's got some kind of deal with the military. This goes back to October 28th, 2021. It's just all posturing and posing. All these model photos. She's got some wings. She's an angel, but also a soldier, right? All these various model poses, and she's got this. She's got some kind of masks thing going on. And then down here, look, and then she's got all these different outfits, like that, two different, like this is a desert outfit, like a light desert outfit, and she's got all these different, like a whole closet full of soldier clothes. She's going out, look, she's got a little adventure, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, posing here like this. Again, all these, professional photographer coming in and them promoting the military, right? This is them using her. She's going on some like Pee-wee Big Adventure here. She's got her machine gun out, just, pointed at one of her buddies here. She's sitting here with her feet by the fire and having some, Ukrainian stew, like cooking some Ukrainian burgers there. And like, she's got the whole thing going on, right? It's all just promo stuff. It's not real. Here she is in more casual times. Got her tent back here. She's always got her machine gun ready to pose because, this is all the way back in September 17th, 2021. It's just fake. It's all fake, right? It's not real. She's not a real soldier, right? And then they published this article saying she was going to war with the troops to get the Russians. Yeah, sure. Like, she's going to survive this thing, right? Or not, like, depending on how they're going to use her. And here she is in her beauty queen gown stuff, whatever, with wearing a tiara. Maybe that's just a tiara. So it's like it's Instagram model stuff, right? It's not real, it's not real soldiering. So this was supposed to be a short video. I want to just wrap this thing up. But I want to say one more thing about Hillary, and I've forgotten it, so maybe not. Let me just see if I can find it in here somewhere. Well, here it is. They were, and I want to say something more about the truth community, but both these things go hand in hand. So they started planting the seeds about Russia right after Syria. And who knows, how contrived and what kind of plan, who's in on it, right? All that kind of stuff, which the truth community is obsessed with. But it's, there's no merit in it. There's no there, right? But they started planting these seeds about Putin and Russia when America was doing the Arab Spring and got blocked in Syria. Remember, Clinton's husband, Billy Bob Clinton, was his joint chiefs. The head of his Joint Chiefs of Staff was Wesley Clark, and he returned during the Bush years to see some of his former, employees, and they said that they were going to invade 7 countries in 5 years. And so he did a list, right? Some of them were like in Africa, Somalia, Libya, and these countries. And they did 4 of them. So they got 4 of them done after the big event in 2001. And, they just all went along with this, right? The anti-war Democrats, all these people. And then Hilary Clinton and them were pushing it under Barack Obama. And then it got stopped. And Trump wouldn't do it, right? Whatever you want to say about Trump, he didn't continue it. There was no war under Trump. He just stopped it. He stopped all the ISIS stuff, all that stuff. Because, it was, he wasn't going along with the agenda, and the agenda of the intelligence community and the military-industrial complex. They have, each president's supposed to sign off. They have these guys who have careers, the military guys and the intelligence guys, the intelligence people, and they have long-term plans, 30-year plans, 50-year plans, and presidents only come in for 8 years. And the president is supposed to nix their long-term goals and plans, right? And Trump was doing that, and that's one of the reasons, Trump was a puppet also, and he was controlled, but, he was still doing his own thing. But Hillary Clinton was pushing this idea and has been saying Russia, Russia, Russia forever. And that was like her, her big claim to fame, and now it's come full circle. She was used as a shield to push this agenda with other people and, of course, the media and all that. But it's a part of a long-term programming. And in the same way, I've become more and more aware of it, that you see this with the QBs. There's these different threads in the truth community, long-standing sort of templates of ways of thinking about, people in the truth community have done one good thing, which is they admit they've been fooled. Like, you grew up, you've been indoctrinated, right? I mean, most of us realize, oh, wow, there was a whole nother deeper world of truth that I, wasn't aware of, and that the people controlling the system aren't who they say they were, and they've been manipulating us, one move chess kind of stuff. And then, you enter into the truth community, and you should break free from it. The squirrel, look, squirrel, it's squirrel, squirrel, this kind of thing, right? They just point you in a certain direction. And there's these various threads in the truth community, and they pull for different personality types, and they're all disinformation. I mean, there's some truth in them, but they're disinformation at the core, because they want conflict, they want to keep you distracted, and they want, you're not doing anything, like you're not preventing anything, you're not adapting to anything, you're not using this information for anything in a positive way, like that. Think about it, like what's being done in the truth community to, and these fake movements and protests, and let's do this, hey, let's go troll people, let's go that, it doesn't work, right? None of it, right? None of it's stopping what's about to happen. And because the civilization's collapsing, which is God's will, and nobody's going to prevent that from happening, right? Yugas come and go, and, governments come and go, and, really don't have to do anything because the government's collapsing. The system is collapsing right, like under our feet, right? Right, right, like we're standing on it, and it's collapsing underneath us. And the number one way they get you is play on your emotions of outrage and whatever. Let's say they did with the pizza thing and the QBs and the various, whatever it is. And people get locked into their beliefs, and I want to argue about it. It becomes like, no, I'm right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. Right. It's just, these ridiculous arguments within the truth community. And I just don't care about it anymore. Like I make these videos, I make jokes about it, and I talk about things on different levels, and but I don't care about any of it because it's collapsing, right? There's nothing that can be done to save the system, and the system shouldn't be saved. It's demonic, but we're 100% dependent on it. I say it time and time again. That's our reality. And what you can do, which I say over and over again, most people don't care, don't want to do it. Most people just want the drama, and that's that's fine. They want to be distracted, they want to feel whatever. But what you can do during this time period where you have lots of free time, instead of just, looking into the abyss and the cesspit like constantly, which doesn't help anybody, is connect to God, right, in a deeper way. That's why, I talk about the heartfulness meditation being a tool for this, right, the transmission and the cleaning. Connect to God internally, and then start, finding the truth as God guides you, and your heart guides you, and your soul guides you through life, right? And so, that's the alternative, because otherwise it's a shit show that you're continuously turning on, and you wonder why you feel bad, or you're, bummed out because they're working you. They're, manipulating you to feel helpless and hopeless. And, the one problem with the truthers, more than anything else, is that they give way too much power to the controllers. Like they think they can do a lot more than they can do, right? Because you have individual pieces making decisions, and you can buy people and threaten people, and you can control people, but not to the extent that most truthers think the controllers control everything. Not everything is their, script, and not everybody follows the script, and not everything goes the way the things that plague all of us, right? Because things don't always go our way. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter what kind of power you have. It doesn't matter if you're the most saintly person in the world and God, you're working for God. Things go in a way that you don't like, right? That you get disappointed. Bad things happen. And same thing with the people at the top of the so-called pyramid. They don't control things like you think they do. You're giving them way too much power. Oh, like they're doing it on purpose. This is all them. Well, no, it can't be all them, right? Nobody can control people like that. Have you ever tried, right? I mean, can you get your kids to do it that you want them to do? Can you get your spouse to do what you want them to do? Your dog or whatever? I mean, like, People are constantly disappointing each other, and constantly, your subordinates are always doing their own thing or whatever, right? Disappointing you and going against what you believe. I mean, you can't even convince your relatives of what's going on here. You think the controllers can control everybody? Like everyone, even what I was talking about with that thing with Joy Behar, where she was like, bummed by the powers that be in the COVID world for, repealing some of these things. Well, I'm not going to stop wearing the, masks, she said, right? Because I don't, they're always changing. They're always changing things, right? And so she wasn't even going along with, they don't even go along with the official story. I mean, think about all the people out there that are just doing their own thing in one way or another. They're just on different sides. But how many people are just following what their leaders and their, people that control them are doing? Like, Americans are always rebelling. They're always acting out. Like, they're not, people aren't that easy to control, right? I mean, even if you can control them, oftentimes they're just so ignorant, you can't even, like, reason with them enough. Even though they want to obey, they can't, because they're like, they don't understand what they're being told to do, right? Oh, no, right? Whatever. I mean, go to any elementary school, watch the teacher explain something 12 times to the kids, and they just can't get it. Like, different levels of comprehension, all the rest of it. And so, like, it's not as, it's like chaotic in a universe that has a God and a plan, and God is a plan, right? And has contingencies. There's a lot of freedom of choice, a lot of chaos, and a lot of stupidity. And so, like, instead of just like the evil, people in the truth community give way too much power to evil, and the people who are, losing control over a system that is failing in every possible way. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Parvano, definitely important for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.